Touchdown, West Philly!
A chance for the Chargers, and they score!
In the front, Fuzzy again!
Good afternoon and welcome to 321 Media's Fiore Calls Game, brought to you by CC O'Brien's. I am your host, Andrew Fiore, with you here in downtown Westerly, and we have Kyle Reel in studio with us. How we doing, Kyle?
It's good. I'm good. It's been a while. I've had a lot of stuff going on, so I haven't been in studio in a minute, but it's good to be back.
Thrilled to have you back, man. We've got the con man, Brandon Kahn, joining us virtually today, and we have a very special guest, my former boss, WPRI former sports director Taylor Begley is with us here. Taylor, long time no see.
I know. How are you, Andrew? Doing good
I am
things.
doing great. Doing great. It's honestly been a bit of a journey since WPRI. I miss it very much. But it's great to see you again. I haven't seen you since you covered the NBA Finals, and you've been doing ESPN Plus work as well.
Yeah.
So a lot to go over today with all that you've done in reporting. So let's just get right into it.
Yeah.
When did you know that you wanted to be a sports reporter?
I think it was something that when I look back now, it was kind of brewing my entire life, but I didn't fully commit to it until probably like 2017, I would say, the light bulb moment, which is actually crazy timing because I was at that point already a senior in college at UConn. So I had done no work on air at all. I'd really done no reporting. I was a journalism major, so I had somewhat of a background on reporting and things through classes, but it wasn't until I took a broadcast class my senior year that the light bulb moment kind of went off. And I think just feeling the natural ability in a way, and also getting validation from my professor at UConn that, hey, like you might have a skill for this. And I think it was kind of perfect timing because I was a cheerleader at UConn, and cheerleading had been a huge part of my life. Being involved in athletics in that way and cheering on the teams and part of the community and everything. And I mean, you know this, Andrew, probably as well, but like when you're sidelined and you're there and you're in the action all the time, it's really hard to like let that go. So I think I was in a way like mourning the idea of not having cheer anymore, but also having a passion for sports and wanting to try to find a way to make a career out of it. And this class happened really kind of at a perfect time where it lit that spark. But it did take a minute for me to actually commit to doing it because at the time I felt like I'm so far behind. Everyone who has wanted to do this their whole lives, they've been doing 4 years of student media and internships and all this stuff. And I had done nothing to that point other than take this one class. So I, for a while, was like, oh, that'd be fun, but it feels kind of like a pipe dream. Like I can't actually do it because I'm too far gone. And so I ended up going back to grad school to pursue it because it just got to the point where I couldn't ignore the want to do it any longer. But yeah, a little later than a lot of people. But when I say that, like there were seeds when I look back, like I was a kid who I was writing stories on my laptop for fun. Like that was my idea of fun. Sitting on Microsoft Word and like writing stories. And another funny thing that kind of came up to me recently with like the UConn women doing so well and winning the national championship. Like I'm from Connecticut. I grew up with the UConn women. But I did not have a skill for basketball at all, like whatsoever, like all my friends did. But I loved it. Like I loved watching it and I wanted to be involved. Like Diana Taurasi was my favorite player. Like I loved the UConn women's program. But what I did was like in, elementary, middle school, whatever it was, when my friends would be at recess playing pickup, I was on the side, like narrating, like play by play of their games that they were playing in pickup basketball because I just wanted to be involved in it and I just loved it so much. But like you could not catch me playing because I knew I've always been very self-aware. Like playing basketball was not my skill. So I look back now and it's funny that I didn't realize it sooner because of those little things. But everything happens in perfect timing, I believe. So I'm here now.
Yeah, that's awesome story there. I was actually going to bring up the Yukon women at some point. Figured you had a lot of takes on that,
Yeah.
seeing their championship. And then you also got to cover one of your favorite teams winning a championship past June. You were in the building when the Celtics beat the Mavericks in game 5. What was that experience like?
It was insane. I mean, it felt like it had been a process for, a few years where the Celtics had been building towards this championship. And they just like put the pedal to the metal when they got there. And it was really, really fun to watch. I'm someone who, I mean, obviously when I'm reporting, I'm very professional and you can't really be a fan and you're not up and standing and cheering, which is the complete opposite of, being a cheerleader. But I will say that, when I'm watching my favorite teams, I get very anxious. So when it's like a blowout or like when it feels like, oh, they just have the edge, like they're the better team, they're going to win this, and you could just feel it, kind of like with the Yukon women as well this past weekend. I love it. Like I love it, even if it's not as close of a game or as close of a series. I When it's my team, I love being able to watch them just dominate. So that was so much fun. And I mean, to cover a championship, to be in the building for a championship, you think that excited fans and that the fan base and the camaraderie around a sports team, but when you're in the building for the final of all finals, right? Like the NBA finals. I went to a World Series game this year. I'm a Yankee fan. Not Don't want to talk about that so much, but it was a rough game, but to be in the building with all these people that are so passionate about this team, it's electric. Like you can't really describe it. And to be in the I think the biggest thing for me is like I love sports stories. I love the history of sports and I love watching like documentaries back and stuff like that. Um so to be in a moment where you're like, wow, like I'm standing in the middle of history, like I'm watching these players react to winning a championship, to how they're showing up in a game, to these moments that like are going to live on for forever. You could tell your kids about it. You could, have generations of people looking back on these moments that I'm standing in the middle. So I think it's a really cool experience, and especially being a team that I do love. Um, yeah, it was amazing. So
Yeah, I can only imagine how hard, like the going from being a cheerleader and like obviously the entire goal of that is to cheer on a team, and then transitioning into a career as a sports reporter. Obviously, you
yeah.
have to be professional, and I feel like I've actually seen a lot of stuff about this on Twitter recently because I guess like I don't know some reporter like looked like they were reacting a little bit too much to a team winning, but I know that it can be difficult when, especially I'm a Celtics fan, like I can only imagine having to be there on like as a job, but being a Celtics fan and seeing them win the championship, I'd have to like keep myself calm.
Yeah, it is an interesting thing. I will say when I was a cheerleader, I wasn't like the most crazy, like woohoo, like psycho cheerleader ever. There were pictures of me at games where like all the girls were turning around cheering and I'm like watching the game. I'm leaning over like I'm standing behind the football team all lined up on the sideline and I'm like trying to see the plays and stuff. So I've always been very like into the game and like so attentive to what's going on in the game. That's I haven't been the one to be like super reactive. Obviously, I'll feel certain feelings internally, but it's been a little bit easier for me to shut it off than I imagine. Like a lot of people, especially people that are super, super fans and they grow up and they go into sports, because going to a game as a fan is totally different than going to a game as a sports reporter. But I think one of the things that has helped me since I've been in the industry is you start to see the players and the coaches as people. And so you may really like a team, but you also can see the storylines on the other side and you have empathy for the losing team. And you want certain players to do well because you know the kind of person that they are, and they may not be on your favorite team. They may be on a different team. So I don't know, it kind of like you're still a fan and you still have appreciation for the history and what sports teams have meant to you throughout your life, but you can also appreciate and like kind of take a step back simultaneously, and appreciate the game and for what it is, and how difficult it is to get to that point, and how much these guys and girls put into it. And yeah, just connecting to more than just a team, which has been really cool about being in the industry, I would say.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I've thought about that before, but that is something that you, especially as reporters who go into the locker rooms and get the chance to talk to these people on a level where things might be off the record a little bit more, or like even then you're close to somebody and get the chance to ask them questions where you're not just watching from a sideline and you're not just a fan anymore who sees them as just a player. You actually get to know them as people through those interactions.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And like with sports too, players, you could really get to like a player and then they get traded or they sign with a different team. And so to still be able to like root on certain players because you just think that they're a good person or you like the way that they go about what they do. And I've always been like, I would say, I mean, the games are super exciting and the actual game in and of itself. But I would say like the biggest reason why I love sports and why I got into it is because of the stories and the impact that athletes and sports teams can have on communities, on people, and on the world as a whole. So I really love the more in depth, like person behind the athlete, story behind the team, all of that.
That actually connects to something I was going to ask, because I remember the first day I met you for my orientation, you told me that when you were an intern in the Los Angeles area, you asked LeBron James a question. You've asked a bunch of big athletes in LA and in Boston questions. And who's really stood out as your favorite like character, person off the field to talk to and work with?
Okay, I would have to think about like individual, like who I would pick, but the first thing that came to my mind, and I feel like I have to share this story, and it actually was when I was an intern. I was covering the Patriots and the Rams were playing each other in the Super Bowl. This was Super Bowl 53. So 2018, 2019 was when it was. I was covering their media availability for the Rams before they left to go to Atlanta for Super Bowl week. And I remember asking Wade Phillips, who is a character in and of himself. He was the defensive coordinator for the Rams at the time. There was the whole narrative at that time, like, oh, Tom Brady's not what he once was, and they're winning because of their defense, and Bill and this, Tom's not, he's approaching the cliff, like his peak is over, all of that. And I asked Wade what he thought when he looks at the tape, because you've played him for years now. Like he was the defensive coordinator in Denver. You beat Tom Brady. When you look at the film, what do you see? Do you see the guy that's like falling off the cliff, or do you still see that guy that's extremely great at what he does? And his answer was, what I see is that I'm getting older and he's not, or something like that. And it was so funny. And I remember like as a little intern thinking like, wow, I got him to like say this really funny, like cool thing. And I love that. Like, and it really made me think more about like the questions I would ask to players and coaches and things. And it's not about you, it's about their answer, so that he was a character. I mean, Bill is a character in and of himself. Like that was quite the experience, unlike any other to cover him. I was humbled real quick, my first day at training camp, ask him a question and he gives me I just, like some kind of off the cuff answer.
Yeah.
Not answering. Yeah. And like basically making you feel like you asked a stupid question and why would you ask that? And I remember just like racking my brain. I'm like, okay, fair. Like, let me actually assess this and see, did I ask a bad question? And the more I thought of it, I was like, no, that was not a bad question. Like he just didn't want to answer it. And that's the way, he was. But it's a part of his whole persona. And obviously he's been so successful that he can kind of be that way. But I mean, Joe Mazzulla is
I was about to ask about Joe.
Some of the stuff he is just, some of the stuff he says, I mean, he's so like, he loves basketball, but he also like, he loves his family and his faith and just he is who he is and he embraces that and he doesn't try to be anything different. And he's just, you're not going to get one over and like get him to say something that doesn't align, or he's not going to give you the answer that you want. Like if you're asking, I just go back to like the royal family one when he was
Yeah.
asked about that and he said Jesus, Mary,
Jesus, Mary, and Joseph.
that is who he is. And so he was really cool. But there are so many. It's hard to like pick just one, you know. But it's honestly just such a privilege to be able to be that up close. And some of the favorite moments are stuff that never even make it out of the locker room, or, you know, just little interactions of like Dietrich Wise telling me he liked my outfit, like that. I was like, wow, I like feel cool today, you know? But little things like that where you may not like hear about it or see about it, but it's an interaction that you get because you're so close to the team, where you actually start to like build relationships with these people that you see every day, and they're just people, you know, at the end of the day, and they're doing their job, and they're doing it at a really high level, and they're on a really big stage, but at the end of the day, they're humans. There's great people, there's interesting people, there's not great people, you know, there's everything within a locker room and within sports. And not everybody gets to see that, which is something that, you know, I try not to take for granted.
Yeah. Brandon, I don't know if you had something before, but
Yeah, I wanted to real quick, Taylor, backtrack a little bit. When you were talking about earlier how when you were a kid, you would like act like the broadcaster for, you know, while your friends went and played games at recess or something. I kind of relate to that, where I would do my own commentary over like football, basketball games, that sort of thing. So if you didn't, I guess my question is, if you didn't always know that it was sports journalism, what else was it going to be? What else did you have in mind?
That's so interesting. It took me a while to even decide my major because I had absolutely no idea. I grew up in gymnastics, so really my dream my whole life was to be an Olympic gymnast. And then once I realized that that wasn't going to happen, it was kind of like, okay, well, what do I do now? You know? But I would say, well, I guess what I did do was I started my career in PR. So I always knew what my skills were. I always knew I was good at communicating and at writing and things like that. So once I kind of got through and sat down and figured out, okay, what can I major in? I knew it was going to be something in communications or journalism. And it's funny how really everything happens for a reason. But originally, I was just general communications as my major. And the reason I even added journalism was because I knew that in PR, a lot of writing was involved. So I wanted to have a solid foundation of writing skills. And I knew that if I picked up journalism as a double major, I would have a good foundation of both like communication strategy and writing, and actually executing and being creative. So that's what I was planning on doing. And I did work for a little bit. I had internships throughout college in like fashion PR. I always kind of liked fashion, which what's cool about sports nowadays is that like sports are so ingrained in culture, and like the tunnel fits and stuff like that. Like fashion is such a big part of sports too,
Definitely.
which has been really cool. And I feel like kind of combines, you know, my two once I kind of went through the fashion route, I knew that that wasn't something that I was like incredibly passionate about, but I still do like it. So it's cool to be in sports and still have like a touch of that involved. But yeah, once I took that class, I tried to pursue, you know, just the corporate communications route, and I just kept feeling this pull back to broadcasting. So I'd say probably something else in communications, just not in broadcasting.
Awesome answer. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
yeah, I've noticed you have always been interested too in the social media side of things. I've seen you you would post about your journey from not really wanting to post a lot to using your Instagram as a platform, and you know, you do your like get ready routines before the games and like little behind the scenes reels. Talk about that process of how you really shifted yourself from avoiding social media posting to diving straight into it.
Yeah, I love social media personally. I think it's such a fun, like creative outlet and a way to connect with so many people beyond just the people that see you on TV or watch you on TV. And it's been a journey because I think at the beginning of my career, it wasn't as big. It was more of just, you know, you're on TV and you focus on that. And like if you can post on social media here and there, it's more just, hey, here's what I'm doing, or here's for my friends. It was less about content. I think TikTok really changed the game completely with the types of content that people were putting out. But I started to see it more as um, a tool to connect, a tool to, build an audience, which then translates into whatever work you do, wherever you're broadcasting. If you have people that are invested in your career and follow your career, you're bringing that audience to whoever your employer is. So it's beneficial in that way. And it's also reps. I mean, it gets you comfortable on camera. If you're not on camera every day, it's a great opportunity to, pull up your phone and just talk about sports. It helps you find your voice because you're free to talk about sports in any way that you want to on there. You have that creative freedom. But also, I would say, at first, it was one of those things where I was a little bit worried. Like, are people meaning people that I, work with or work for, are they going to think that I'm taking time away from what I'm supposed to be doing at my job to do this social media stuff? And am I not being productive with my work? And I've kind of gotten to this point where I've realized that, like, no, this is the future, like, this is media and it's very important and you need to treat it that way. And I think you're missing out if you're not, utilizing social media. It doesn't have to be your main thing. For some people it is, which is amazing that there are so many opportunities to make a career just off of your phone. But I do think that, it also gets your brand out there. Like, if you're a reporter and you're posting your clips, like, who knows who can see that just by you posting on social media. So, that's how I got my first job. I used to, before I really embraced like the Instagram and TikTok of it all, I would be posting my reel on YouTube and LinkedIn. And I got my first job just because somebody found my reel. My news director found my reel on YouTube or LinkedIn and reached out to me. So I think that you never know what social media could bring and who you could reach, and the impact that you could have. So I think it's great to embrace. I mean, everybody has different opinions. I think some people feel bogged down by social media and there can be that comparison game and things like that. But I think it's just about your mindset when you approach it, and approaching it as like, this is a tool and it's not something of like, oh, let me try to show off what I'm doing or like compare myself to what someone else is doing that I'm not doing and letting it get to you in that way. It's more just like a portfolio in a way, and a way to also showcase your personality too.
I also think that like with social media nowadays, like a lot of the reason why people might look at it a certain way is because people don't necessarily talk about sports in the most like professional way anymore. Like, which again, you did mention creative freedom and people can talk about whatever they want in whatever way that they want. But I feel like a lot of the how sports are looked at it on social media has kind of seeped into TV. Like there's a lot of like hot take shows. Like it's not really as
Yeah.
substantial as of information as you would like to get, and that's why I really like my Twitter feed is catered towards the reporters that I really like for the Patriots, at least because I really follow along with the Patriots, and there's some really good beat reporters that I like that I know aren't giving me BS, and I'm not going to go watch ESPN First Take or whatever if I'm trying to learn about like the Patriots or even the Celtics.
Like Mike Reese.
Yeah, or even exactly Mike Reese, like Phil Perry. There's some really good guys, but then I think about like ESPN, they're still talking about Jason Tatum, like, oh, he's got all this to gain during the playoffs. It's like, can we talk about the teams? Can we talk about something else? It's like, for me, it feels like a lot of the way that sports are talked about on social media is kind of seeped into TV and kind of made it less, I guess, more watered down.
Yeah, more like casual, I guess, than more professional. And I do see that. I mean, I in a way I get why the networks are doing it because it does sell and it does
Yeah,
well,
of course.
numbers game at the end of the day. But you're right in that, like, there are days where I wish I could just flip on the TV and I could hear about, March Madness, but I know they're going to be going off about like the NFL draft coming up, and it's like I want to talk about, the UConn women. Like, I want to hear about them. Like, do you see these stories behind these girls? Like, it's so good. But the good thing about social media is that when you are able to find, your people, and this is another reason why I think it's important that real reporters get on social media, is because if you want to hear about the Patriots, you can go on there and watch it almost as if it's a show. If you're getting quality content from the people that you want to get content from, not, just whatever the talk show is talking about that day. So I think that that's a nice part of it where you can kind of curate, like if you really want to, like, I don't know, talk about or watch content right now about the NFL draft versus like NBA, you can go and like find those people. But I think in a way it can get flooded where it's like, okay, who do we, and this is a problem I think with news in general, with social media, is like making sure that we're consuming from like credible and good sources. And with social media, how everybody has access to being a journalist, like it's good to remember, like not everybody is a journalist, and not everybody, even things that people go on and say, like, is that true? And to like be a little bit inquisitive of like, okay, where are they getting this information? Where, and I take that into my platforms. I think like I'm always thinking about, okay, I am a journalist. Like I have two journalism degrees. Like I need to make sure that even though there's no one monitoring me, like I don't have a boss on social media, I need to make sure that like I'm remaining credible and that I'm speaking in a way that I would on TV, or even if it's a little bit more casual with the delivery, but I'm not going to go on there and say things that are inaccurate or like aren't confirmed, or I could give my opinion on something, but it's always kind of based on what's actually it's always based on what's actually happening. Like I'm not going to be, and the people that are speculating, like sometimes it's hard to tell. So it does get wishy-washy. I think there is that with social media. It's kind of like a blessing and a curse, but I think with people in the field actually being on social media and making sure to take their title and like and have their integrity with them when they are there, is super important. So to be able to kind of decipher who's not, like where's the crap and where's like the actual good quality content. So that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, we got a good look of what happens when you get credible information that becomes a big story, because we had your former partner in crime, Sam Knox, on our show a few weeks back, and he had to leave very early because the Brad Marchand news broke, and he had to just go and do his thing.
Yeah.
What happens? Can you walk us through like the behind the scenes of when you get big information early? What do you have to do? Like, what
Yeah.
are the steps to getting the information, and then what do you have to do as or sports director?
Well, when you're in local, and you're covering these big time teams, we're a lot of times not going to get information before Adam Schefter does. If we're talking Patriots or, whatever it is, like there's these so you'll always hear kind of like a buzz. Usually like you'll have somewhat of like an antenna up days before something really becomes, official. And we'll report, like if I was anchoring and Adam Schefter had come out, and said that Tom Brady is retiring, like we would report that and attribute that to Adam Schefter because of his stature in the media world and because of his credibility. We wouldn't be doing that with just anybody. Like we're very particular of like who we would cite, but it would be crazy for me not to mention that rumor is circulating out there. Not even rumor, but like report is circulating out there from a very credible source, and everyone's talking about it, so I think the important thing is to, in that case, Adam Schefter is reporting, like ESPN's senior and NFL insiders reporting this, but the team has not confirmed, or Brady has not confirmed himself, and like just making sure that you're updating with whatever information you have at the time. But in terms of like when things actually break, so a good example that I dealt with was when Bill Belichick and the Patriots parted ways. I was on that story that day, and it was like I was, supposed to come in to anchor at 3 p.m. and I wake up to a call from my boss saying like, check your email right now, because we just got a press release that it was official and there was going to be a press conference at noon. So it's like you just hop out of bed and you're getting ready as fast as you can to get up to Foxborough, and whatever information you can get when you're there. A lot of times there'll be, when there's bigger news, there will be press conferences and things that are kind of set up. There'll be sometimes open locker rooms and things like that, but it's really being able to kind of like always be alert of like what could happen, and what kind of like the rumblings are, and what you're hearing, but be ready when something becomes official to be able to just like get up and go. And sometimes it may just be like you're in anchoring and you're supposed to only be in the 6 o'clock news, but something breaks and then they want you in the 4 o'clock. So you have to write a whole script and edit all this video, and you just have to be ready to go to report on anything at any given time. And I will say that those are sometimes the most fun days. Like the day with Belichick, Sam came in. He was supposed to be off that day. He came in to help me out and our sports team out. We were calling in Andy Gresh from New England sports, he's does
We know
everything
him.
there. Yeah. Oh yeah. We're calling him like, can we get you in the studio so we can talk about this? Like he was our go-to analyst for Patriots things. And so just really like jumping on the fly, how can we make this coverage great? How can we blow it up? And it's of course, it's not just, a one person effort. It's leaning on so many people. Like you're leaning on, our news director and our news producers, because we're having to create content for their shows now. And how are we going to format it? What kind of content do you need for your show? And what can we give? And how can we make each show different? And the angle, even though we have this one big story, what is the angle going to look like and how is it going to be different? I was live that night with Mike Montecalvo, who's our main anchor. He came up, so his schedule adjusted that day. He had to come up to Foxborough. And we did like a live dual, anchoring kind of situation. And we were the lead story all night. And I mean, it was great because it deserved that, right? Like the stories, you can't predict a lot of this stuff and when exactly it's going to happen. But when something big like that happens, I mean, the first thing that came to my mind is like, how to know really how big it is like when you think of all those documentaries of different sports stories and you see those clips of like the local news anchor delivering the news, like we were in a moment that could then one day be in a documentary. Like that's how important this moment is in history, and like we have to be on top of our game, and putting our best foot forward and ready to just adjust and go. So that's an example that I kind of worked through, and I'm sure for Sam it's similar. Like, news breaks, you got to go, you got to front the story, you got to figure out, okay, is there a media availability now? If it's tomorrow, who am I going to send? Who from my team? What were they supposed to be doing? Okay, now they're going to do this. Was their schedule supposed to be an afternoon shift? Okay, but the press conference is in the morning. So you really you're never off. You're never off, especially when you're the director of a department. You are never off. But it's a privilege to be in that position. So it's great.
Well, I remember you taught me a ton. I think we were on our way back from one of the Bruins Panthers games, and you were explaining the whole business side to being a reporter with the agents, contracts, all of
Yeah.
that. How did you navigate all that, being fresh out of college and immediately jumping into this world where you have to figure all that stuff out?
Yeah. It is very daunting at first. I mean, I definitely always wanted to find mentors. So I felt like while I was in school, and especially in that grad year at USC, I was trying to talk to as many people as I could, whether it be professors who had been through things, whether it was through my internship at a local TV station where I was able to talk to other reporters, and really just understanding like, okay, what is normal? What should I be looking for? What should I look out for? And I find that people in the industry are great because there is no like rule book. Everybody had to figure it out. And especially when you're first starting. And honestly, these days, like a lot of people aren't getting agents until like later, or if they do, they kind of regret getting it too early, and would rather see the benefit of getting an agent later on in their career. So, most people go through a couple contracts and a couple stations, where they have to just, deal with their contract themselves and negotiate themselves. And I think, just leaning on people who have done it before, leaning on your parents. I mean, I had one of my mom's friends, her sister is a lawyer. So I had her look over the contract, just to see, like, okay, how does this look from a lawyer standpoint? I sent it to a professor that I had. Like, does this look like a standard TV contract? Like, does it look normal? And just asking and talking to people. I think that's the best thing that you can do, when you're first starting out. And even with like salaries, talking to people, okay, what's normal? Where can I push? What can I ask for here? And just having those conversations before you go through it yourself is super helpful, because then when you're in it, you can feel a little bit more confident in when things are just all being thrown at you. You know how you want to respond and what kind of like your game plan is as you approach signing a contract or negotiating a contract, accepting a job, anything like that. It is interesting though. It's very interesting.
Yeah, just to kind of go off of that, like I graduate in a month and I kind of like have no idea what I'm doing. Like I do,
Okay.
but I also like, it's not set in stone. Obviously there's and I know I'm young and there's plenty of time, but just like any advice, I guess, that you would have just for I don't really even know if I want to be like a reporter. That's not really like my kind of thing, but like I want to work in the sports media industry or, anything along those lines.
He's
But
killing it with roadie football.
yeah, like I'm an intern with the football team, but that's like an operations thing. Like I want to work like front office, like because football is my thing. But just any
Yeah.
advice in general, because I'm also thinking about grad school. I don't really know what to do with that, so I don't
Yeah.
know.
I think we're all in the same boat.
Yeah. So, okay. So for grad school for myself, I would say I definitely didn't need to go to grad school if I had done what I wanted to do when I was in undergrad. Having a master's degree, like it never hurts, right? Like if I want to teach one day, I can teach. Like there's so many things that I can do. And also having a degree from USC, like the alumni network, is insane. So I think it's definitely helped me and I don't regret it at all. But I would say you don't need to go to grad school unless you're thinking like MBA route or something more like business oriented. But in journalism or communications, I would say you don't really need that, especially because there are so many ways to get involved nowadays without having to go to grad school. Like if you want to, report on a college team while you're in school, even if you're not a journalism major, you can do that. Like you can figure out a way to, pitch yourself. And I would say the biggest thing in terms of like finding your career path is it's networking. I know everyone says this, but it's talking to people, it's talking to people who know people, looking at what people do and just picking their brains, like reaching out. And when you see somebody that is doing something that you might like, reach out to them, see how they got there, what their advice would be to get through that particular path. What does their day to day look like? And just talking to as many people as possible and then pursuing the opportunities that interest you. And I think when you're first starting out, like unless you're dead set on something, you can pursue multiple different things. Like um you don't have to pursue just broadcasting or just social media or just operations. Like you can if you see a job you like in broadcasting, apply to that one. If you see a job that you like in something else, apply to that one. But I would say people don't get jobs anymore from just applying. You really need to make connections. And foster those connections. I think something that like I had to learn, I always been a good networker, I would say. And when you're early on, people really will respond and want to help, especially when you're fresh out of school. But in order to keep contact, like you want to make sure that you're still reaching out to these people that you've connected with beyond just when you're like looking for a job or looking for advice. Like reach out to them if you see their favorite team is like going to the NBA finals or, whatever it is, and just like shoot them a text or stay connected on social media. And like, if you see something that they post that you can write a comment to, like just staying top of mind and invested in that person outside of just like, how can they help me? I think that that's super important too. And then just, being a hard worker and being a good person, I feel like that's the number one thing as you go through your career. If you work hard and you're a good person, people will want to work with you and people will want to recommend you. And and enjoy the journey. That's another one. Enjoy the journey because it is, sports are fun. I remember my first sports director, best guy ever, telling me like, lighten up, because I would get so nervous being on TV when I was first starting. He's like, sports are fun. Like, loosen up. Come on. Like, read those highlights. Like, don't use the paper. Just talk. Like, and I think, everybody does it a little bit differently, but I think having fun along the way and figuring out what you really like and what your purpose um, is great. So.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Great advice. We're going to take a quick ad break, and then we'll be right back here with more from Taylor Begley on Fiore Calls Game. Stay with us, folks.
Experience local excellence with Roof Right Roofing in Charlestown, Rhode Island. With over 40 years of unmatched expertise, Roof Right specializes in architectural shingles and holds the prestigious title of GAF Master Elite Installers. Known for their commitment to the community and support for local initiatives, Roof Right is your trusted partner for all of your home's roofing needs. Call today for a free estimate at 401-212-4140.
Hi, this is Dan from Lathrop Insurance. In this challenging insurance environment, Lathrop Insurance can be your beacon in the storm to help you find the coverage you need at the right price. Now, more than ever, you need a partner in the insurance industry that can work with multiple carriers to make sure you have the right coverage at the right price. Lathrop Insurance carries home, auto, and business insurance and can be reached at 401-596-2525. We've been supporting the local community since 1939, and we look forward to working with you.
What's going on, everybody? It's Patrick down here at the Wireless Zone at Dunn's Corners at 224 Post Road, and everybody down here is getting the brand new iPhone 16. We have it here in stock. The best part is right now, if you trade in your old phone, you get it for free. We got deals all weekend, awesome savings. Come on down and see us, 224 Post Road, Dunn's Corners, Verizon Wireless Zone. We'll see you soon.
D&V Mechanical specializes in the installation, maintenance, and servicing of Mitsubishi ductless mini-split heat pump systems. We are certified by Mitsubishi as Diamond Elite Contractors and factory trained and up to date on the proper procedure of the installation and service of Mitsubishi ductless heating and air conditioning ductless heat pumps. We assist with the paperwork to reduce much of the stress-related documentation required to get the state rebates and federal tax incentives. We are not a jack-of-all-trades, master-of-nothing company. We are masters of ductless heat pumps. It's what we do, and it's what we know.
Welcome back inside the studio. Here, Andrew Fiore with you here on Fiore Calls Game, brought to you by CC O'Brien's. We have Kyle Reel and Brandon Kahn, our usual co-hosts, and we have Taylor Begley with us for the second half here. She's been providing a lot of great stories, great advice, and we've got so much more to cover here on the show. One thing that I was thinking about is your connection with other women in sports. I know Paige Messier and Brooke Boyer, my former partner with the internship, have been doing great things since leaving WPRI, and you fostered great connections with them. Can you tell us about what it's meant to you mentoring other women trying to get into sports media?
Yeah, I would say that's something that I love the most about being in sports media in general is seeing the young women and the impact that you can have on just helping those early days in your career, because it really is such a tough industry and you really have to put yourself out there in order to pursue this career path. And so if I can help them in any way, build up their confidence, give them any advice, and just be somebody that they can talk to, I feel like it means so much to me, because I would be nowhere without the women who did that for me. And I've always had the mindset, there's room for everybody. Like everybody has a unique skill set. Everybody has, unique talents that they can bring. And there are so many opportunities in sports where we can all shine in our own right. So I think, sometimes people have stories of women being super competitive. And I think that was something from the very beginning that I never wanted to be. I always wanted to support the other women around me, whether that was, the ones that are at my same experience level, same age, things like that, or the ones that I can mentor younger than me. And I would attribute that to just the great examples that I've had. I've had so many incredible mentors. And I've met so many wonderful friends through the industry. Like I can't imagine if there weren't as many women as there are. It's amazing just to be able to meet all these women that cover sports and that love sports the way that I do, and connecting with them throughout my journey in sports. So yeah, it's great.
Well, Brendan, do I feel bad, Brendan?
Yeah, I just feel bad, Brandon. It's hard when you're at home.
No,
Yeah, it is.
I appreciate it, guys. I'm just here listening, soaking it all in. Taylor, you're a very great public speaker, really, really commanding, very articulate and everything.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
So I guess as we kind of come towards the the end of the second half here. If Fiore said we're only doing an hour today, where do you see yourself in a few years?
That's a good question. I think it's always constantly, it's changing, but it also isn't. Like, I think my ultimate goal has always remained the same. I've always wanted to be at the network level, as a reporter or a host, or on some kind of show, or like a regional sports network level. So I think the ultimate goal is definitely still that. And I think, with this world of social media and even like freelance opportunities full time, like there's so many different ways that you can go. Like nobody's path is the same. So I think as long as I'm consistently pursuing opportunities that are bringing me closer, that would be what I would want to be doing. I want to be doing something that feels like I'm moving closer towards my ultimate goal, but also in the process being a role that feels purposeful, where I feel like I can make an impact through telling stories, and sharing the things that we love about sports with other people. And I've thought recently about like starting a podcast. There's so many different things that you can do, to make an impact and to talk about sports these days. And it doesn't have to look exactly the way that you once maybe thought when you first started. Like, okay, I'm going to go to this TV station, then I'm going to go to this market, and then I'm going to go to a bigger market, and then I'm going to go to a regional, and then that's when I'm going to get picked up by national. I've learned throughout the process that you can't, like, you need to like loosen your grip on the exact plan, that you think you want it to be, but to always, I think, get better. Like, you still want to be motivated, and you still want to be consistently pursuing growth and getting better. But I try not to put too much pressure on like exactly what that looks like, because you never know where your opportunity could come from. Like, you could really want to talk about basketball, but a great opportunity comes up as like a clubhouse reporter for baseball. And then you get that opportunity, you interview, and you're like, maybe this would be good, So I think just being open. And I always like to, like, when I look at opportunities, I like to, I trust my gut a lot. Like, when I talk to people, go where I feel like the piece of this is right, this feels right. And sometimes, things can feel scary, but still be right. Like, you could be nervous about something. You could feel like, oh, am I ready for that? But you just have to like check in with yourself. And like, just because you're nervous about something or something feels like a little scary doesn't mean it's the wrong opportunity. So just constantly like having that introspection as opportunities come and as you look for opportunities, but not to write anything off either. And you never know, where the industry will take you, along your journey, but just try to stay true to yourself and your, I guess, like, North Star. That's something that I've recently really, really, um, gotten clear on, of like, okay, why am I doing this? Like, really deep down, like, take my ego aside, because there can be a lot of ego involved when you're on TV, and all of that. Take that away. Why am I doing this? Like, why do I love doing this at the core? And at the end of the day, it's just because sports stories have impacted my life so much, um, that I want to be a part in telling sports stories so that other people can feel that impact and that love for sports too. So just keeping that North Star in mind. So wherever that takes me, ultimately, that's I guess my answer. But my dream job would be, to be probably like a pre or post game host or sideline reporter, something like that.
Yeah, that was an incredible answer that you just ran away with. It's unreal. I guess my overall point is, with you, with the success that you've had in the last 5 or 6 years, even in grad school, with everything that you've been doing, sky's really the limit. And I think in this industry, you never really know. I don't think me, Fiore, or Kyle really got into this industry like knowing for sure exactly where we're going to be in 10 years from now,
Yeah.
because it's just, in this industry especially, it's just impossible to know. And it's great that since you have so much experience in it now, like, it's very reassuring to me, at least, to know like you don't always have to know, and like just keep following, like you said, like a North Star. Like, you will always be guided the right way, everything happens for a reason type of thing, you know. But yeah, really, really appreciate that.
Totally. Yeah. I would say, my faith is a big part in it too. Like I really need to trust God with my career, because if I didn't have that, I don't know where I would be. And just always knowing that it's you're going to end up where you're meant to be, and just show up and be your best every day. And you can want things in your career, and you can think things are the right things, and the door may be shut in your face, and then that just means that something better is around the corner. So keeping that faith has been super important for me through the journey, and I think that that's how I can confidently say that I know more opportunities are around the corner, but also to be open to it maybe not looking exactly the way I personally think it's going to look, and it may be just it might be different. So
Amen to that. Yeah, I definitely feel that strongly. But tell us about what you've been doing since WPRI. I saw you've been doing a lot of Hockey East work with ESPN Plus.
yeah, that's one of the great things I think these days that didn't exist even when I was in college, is that every university is broadcasting their games, whether it's through, ESPN Plus or Your View or whatever it is. I mean, obviously the higher up you get, like UConn basketball isn't going to be on ESPN Plus. They're going to be on the bigger networks, but there are so many opportunities to freelance these days that didn't exist any or in the past. So yeah, just I, left WPRI and wanted to pursue, career growth, and just felt like I had, accomplished a ton, and was really grateful for that opportunity and had the opportunity to stay there. But felt like it was the right timing to step into something different. And so since then, I was looking for different opportunities to get on a broadcast, something that I'd never done. When you're in local TV, you're going live a ton, but you're in a newscast. So you're, pre-planning, okay, this is this is what I'm going to say over the video. This is the sound I'm going to use. This is where in a broadcast, it's different in that, you do prepare your hits and stuff from the production meetings that you go in with the coaches and players and things like that beforehand. But you also have to react on the fly immediately. Like they score a goal and you have a walk-off interview. So you got to like ask your questions immediately. So that's been a really fun skill to hone. And ultimately that was always my dream. Like Erin Andrews was my ultimate, like North Star, I guess, like my role model in this business. And obviously she does sideline. She's incredible. So to be able to have that opportunity has been great, and like really hone in on that skill. And that's another thing, like a piece of advice that I have for, anybody, if you're looking for opportunities, like reach out to colleges. Like every college is doing this, play by play, color, sideline, everywhere. So there's so many opportunities to be had, but a lot of times in this business, you just have to ask for them. They're not going to be something that is presented in front of you or that you see an application for. You just have to go out and get it.
I remember you had a lot of thoughts when Mayo was hired and Belichick was fired. What are your thoughts about the incoming Vrabel administration with the Patriots? What do you think? What do you think that's going to be looking like?
I think I like it. I think it's definitely going to be stabilizing. That's my word. And I think it was, as much as I would have loved for them to, they did a real search, right? Like they interviewed people, but it kind of felt like they were just going to hire. They were fine the whole time, and I don't think that they really had like an open mind to other candidates. But I will say the state that the Patriots have been in, I think he is what they need. I think they need someone who's going to come in and be a stabilizer, someone who has been successful before, who has roots with the organization that the fans will, gravitate towards, and someone who is going to build a culture there that's been lacking and that really has gotten kind of uprooted. And at the end of the day, like you wouldn't think that, oh, the Patriots have to worry about it being like a bottom line, but like when you don't have fans in the stands, like when people are leaving, nobody wants to go to your games anymore. You got to figure something out, because you can't stay like that. And so I think if they can get stability out of Vrabel and hopefully success, I mean, he's been successful. He's a solid coach. He's a good coach. I think it's just it's gonna be about building around, because the roster has been a big issue beyond the coaching. So I think that's gonna be the biggest thing, is like how long is it gonna take for them to get like a really quality roster that they can compete with. And seems like they have the quarterback. Hopefully he continues down the path that he's on, because you never know in this league. But if they can say that they got the quarterback, which I think personally they do, that as long as they can build around him, and the culture is built, I think it'll be good. It is very interesting just because of like all the guys that have been like mainstays on this team for years that are no longer there. It's very interesting. It really feels like a whole new Patriots wave. Like the leaders that have been for the past several years are gone. And so it'll definitely feel and look different, but different isn't always bad when you've been down the way that they've been down. So
Yeah, I have too many thoughts on the Patriots. That's like when you talk about like your North Star, like that's what got me into sports so much. That's
Yeah.
why I like sports so much, because it was really easy to like sports a ton when the Patriots beat the crap out of whoever they played for like my entire life growing up. But I'm a huge fan of the Vrabel hire. I feel bad. I genuinely do feel bad for Gerard Mayo, because I do feel like he kind of got the short end of the stick, and it probably should have been Vrabel from the beginning. But also bringing up the point about the roster, it's like, yeah, that's why Belichick was fired, because he literally couldn't figure out how to draft for like multiple, like it's not like even while Brady was there, he was drafting poorly, and the roster is still suffering because of that. There's like nobody on the roster that you look at besides like Christian Gonzalez and Drake May and be like, yeah, that's like a stud player. There's really nobody else on there. And that's why I think the culture that Vrabel will bring in, like I saw that video of his introductory, like, first day of spring camp or whatever, like talking to the room. And that's just like, again, feel bad for Mayo, but it's like we have an adult back in the room, I guess.
Yeah, and I think it was just a bad situation for a first-time head coach to step into, and even a guy that like hadn't really even, I mean, he was like the de facto defensive coordinator, but he still shared with Steve Belichick. So
Yeah, he didn't even call the plays.
yeah, and like Bill's a defensive mastermind. So like you don't have to really take over a whole unit. And so I think he was kind of set up to fail. Even though I don't think that it definitely wasn't intentional. I think at the time Robert Kraft really felt like he was doing what was right, and he really liked Gerard Mayo and really wanted it to work, but ultimately it just was like not a good business decision. It wasn't good. But I'm glad that it was recognized quickly. Even so, like Mayo can move on and like, reset and recalibrate in his own career and things, and maybe go get a defensive coordinator job somewhere, and figure it out. But like with Vrabel, I think you're right that should have been the hire, and people wanted that to be the hire. I think last year, I mean, people wanted Harbaugh. Like there were a lot of things, but you're absolutely right in that Bill the GM failed this team, and that's why they're in the boat that they're in, and hopefully this will right the ship. And I think that having an adult in the room and somebody who has a proven track record is a great start.
I can't watch another season of that.
I know.
I think most things are looking up. I mean, Kyle basically took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to be like, Mayo was really dealt a crap hand when you look at everything that he had to take over. But you look at the offseason acquisitions that they made. They hired Vrabel very rapidly. It was like, okay, Kraft was like, okay, we knew we messed up last year. We got Vrabel as soon as we could. It was him or bust, basically. You look at the signings they made in free agency. It really just feels like an energy has shifted moment, to paraphrase Jaylen Brown, for New England and the Patriots. So I like the point of the feel of having like an actual adult in the room. I do think it's very good for New England. So Taylor, how do you think they fare this season? How many wins do you think they come out with? Early prediction.
I'm going with 6.
I believe you said Taylor.
No, I know, but I'm saying I'm telling you, that's my opinion. 6.
No, I feel
I think it's gonna be better. I don't think it's gonna be like. I don't think they're like a playoff team, but
God, no,
maybe
not
like
yet.
6 or 7.
I could see
fair.
Oh.
I feel like ceiling would be above 500. That would be the ceiling. So like 9 and 8.
Yeah, I could see them like being right around 500. I think that's a good prediction. for this year. And then what you hope is that then they could take an even bigger step and like contend for playoff the next year. But I think to say like, oh, it's going to be fixed immediately, like that's not going to, with the roster, it's just not going to happen. But it won't be as bad, in my opinion, as it's been the past 2 years. So
we'll see if Vrabel can, Vrabel can do a little damage control. See how this draft goes. We still don't really have like a appointed GM. Elliot Wolf is still player personnel, not like not an official GM. So we'll see how the draft goes. But I don't know. I have a little more faith already, and we haven't even seen this team, outside of mandatory meetings. So
yeah, I definitely do too. I think they're going to be moving in the right direction. And the thing is, like, it may not show in the record, but I will say I hope and I think you will see a more spirited, competitive football team. And I think that that's going to be great for fans because they just need to see, like, even if you don't have a great record and you're not going to make the playoffs, like, at least if you can see your team competing, like, I think Drake May was kind of like that glimmer of hope if there was anything last season of like, okay, well, at least we got the quarterback. This may be horrible, but like, at least we have that. Where if they could have another hopeful season of like, okay, we're competitive at least, and we're getting back to a competitive brand of football, a tough brand of football, where you're not making all these mistakes and they're just more sound all around. I think that will be a win for this year.
Switching gears to the Celtics, 2 questions about that. One, I remember you and I had the debate a few times in those car rides about Jason Tatum, and you said he didn't have the killer mentality or the championship drive. Has your opinion on that changed since June? And also, what do you think of the repeat champion?
Okay.
Chances?
I don't think he's not a champion. I do think he's a champion. Well, he literally is, right?
Yeah.
But it's not that. He just doesn't have that like killer instinct like a Kobe or an MJ when you're the best player on your team. He's just more like, his personality is not that. And even you see some guys that have personalities that are not that, but then on the court they turn to a different person. He doesn't even have that really. But I'm a big Jason Tatum fan. Don't get it twisted.
Of course.
I just had my questions. I had my questions before the season. But like, clearly they're just better than everybody. They as a team, I think it's a perfectly built team. And if you had him where he had to be the savior and he didn't have a Jaylen Brown and he didn't have some of these other pieces, I don't know that they would be able to be that good. Is he a great player? Yeah, he's a great player. But I don't know if he has that like killer instinct of like, I can take over any game at any time. Just in his personality. That was my point when we were going into it last year. But I think that definitely think they can repeat. It's hard to do, any repeating in any sport is hard to do, but I definitely think that they can do it. I would love to see it personally, obviously. And I think maybe he has his moment this year. Maybe he wins finals MVP this year. Like, let's see it happen. But I'm just excited all around to see them, make a run at it. I think that the East has some tough teams, and I think that it's not going to be like a cakewalk, but I definitely think that they can get it done. So.
Yeah, I don't see any team beating a healthy Celtics team in a 7-game series. No. That's just how I feel. No. I don't think any team in the league, even OKC, even Cleveland, who I respect, and I think both teams are good. Like, I just don't think that anyone beating a healthy Celtics team in 7 games. Nope, you're not going to beat them 4 times.
And yeah, I got that with Tatum. Like, it makes sense. But for me, my point last year was basically what you said. They don't really need him to be that killer just because of what they have around him.
Yeah, so, no, it's literally a perfectly crafted team. Like, it's so, and even just like their personality, I'm talking about his personality, right? But like the personalities are part of the reason why it works, because they're unselfish, because they work together so well. And they obviously are all super talented, but yeah, I can agree with you. I would put my money on I'd probably put my money on a repeat. I know before this year, I was asked, I do like Instagram polls every once in a while and like question boxes on my Instagram. And somebody asked whether I thought the Celtics would repeat or what was more likely, Celtics repeat or the Patriots win 4 games. And I said the Patriots win 4 games because I really thought they would at least win 4 games. Only 4. Maybe only 4.
They should have won only 3.
I remember that
Barely.
question actually. That's
Yeah.
that's
Just
They
because I
should've won
felt like
only
it was
3
going to be hard for the Celtics to repeat, but I mean, they're like I said, this has been building. It wasn't like just a one-off 1-year thing. Like they've been building for a while to this point to be this good. And they're going to be, I mean, even just like the lore of the Celtics is going to be hard to overcome for some teams.
Yeah, there's a lot of suffering for a couple years there. Like people don't like it. There was some pretty crappy years.
That's a generous use of suffering as a Mets fan.
2021 was pretty crappy, dude.
But you could see the pieces forming.
No, yeah, you knew that if you're gonna keep the Jays, I always said keep them together, and then things will happen. And this is where we are now. It's
What do you think, Taylor, about the report from Shams? I think it was last week about the potential Kevin Durant trade that got shot down by the Nets. I believe it was Brown and White and a draft pick for Kevin Durant, and the Nets shot it down. I don't know if you heard about that.
Yeah, it was from a couple years ago.
Yeah, that had been circling for a while, and I think Shams just made it known that like, hey, this was real. This was more than a rumor. It was so close to happening.
It's crazy. That's crazy. Crazy to think about.
Definitely, we owe the Nets a lot for not only the Paul Pierce trade, but turning down that move.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think with the way that the Celtics mesh together, it goes back to that like it sometimes talent, even if they're like a otherworldly player, if it doesn't mesh and it doesn't fit, it's not going to work. Like it's just not like how many times have you seen teams try, like even with the Nets when they had like Kyrie and James Harden and Durant, like it doesn't always work because if you don't have the right mixture of players and personalities and skill sets, like it's not going to work. So I think that having the team that they have is just like the perfect group together, you know?
What's your going off topic a little, what's your favorite sport to cover and what's your favorite sport to follow?
To cover, I feel like it's changing all the time. Like it's funny, like it's kind of just where the good stories are, I think is my favorite sport to cover. Like it always was football. Like I always wanted to be an NFL sideline reporter, host, something like that. And then I wanted to be well, I wouldn't say I wanted to be a baseball sideline reporter just because to work for a team like that season is long. It is draining, but I've always loved baseball for sure. As one of my favorite sports to cover for local because you're not there every single day. But I would say where the stories are, like I would love, like if I could do something where it was like I could just go to whatever like the top story was every, week, like last week March Madness, then we're looking at like the Masters, and then next we go to, playoffs for hockey and basketball. And I loved covering the Bruins too. Like the hockey playoff scene is insane. Obviously the Celtics were like the big story last year. So that was my favorite thing to cover last year because they won the NBA championship. And they're 18th and everything like that. So that was definitely the most fun for me. But like lately I've been, really, I was really into like women's March Madness this year because of the storylines behind UConn and like it being my alma mater. So I think it's always changing. Like I probably would never say one thing at a time being my favorite. But that's why I think I love sports so much is that like there's so many great sports to watch and stories to hear and things like that,
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I loved that at WPRI, like switching from PC heading into March when they were on the bubble for March Madness, and then all
Yeah.
of a sudden we were going to Gillette for the draft prep, and then the Bruins and Celtics nonstop, and you had us going
Yeah.
to those lower stairs for those Bruins games instead of the press box, which was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that
Fun
was great. We were
times.
wedged in between two box suites. We're like right in the middle of the fans, and they're going crazy. It's so much fun. And yeah, like March Madness was fun last year, even though PC didn't make the tournament. Like we got to go to the Big East tournament. And again, I'm a UConn grad, so UConn won a championship. So I was like obviously not covering that, but I was really into it and stuff like that. So that's the one fun thing that I will say about local is that like you get a little bit of everything, and you don't always get that if you're, only covering one sport, where with local it's like one day you're at TD Garden for Bruins one day, Celtics the next. Then you've got, Tom Brady's Patriots Hall of Fame induction, and then I'm on a flight to Dallas the next morning for the NBA Finals. Like it's insane, but it's so much fun.
That sounds like the dream. I will never forget, you sent me, I think, the best text I have ever received on my phone ever, and it was like, okay guys, rank these to me and Brooke. Rank these in order of what you want to do the most. Bruins Leafs Game 7, Celtics Heat Game 5, Messi at Gillette, Drake May introduction, Bruins Leafs another game or something like that. It was like those, we had to like pick our options. I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. And I appreciate my time there so much, and you made it possible.
Oh my gosh, you earned it. You and Brooke were great. All the interns that we ever had were always awesome. I think I was an intern once, and I got to do those awesome things. And I think what's cool about being an intern is that you really can take it all in, because you're not like on a deadline of having to turn a story or go live or anything like that. So you're just really like taking in the whole experience of being front row. Like, I don't know if I told you this, but I definitely told some of our interns, like, I am jealous of the interns that just get to like go and take it all in. Like, it's so much fun to work it and stuff, but like you have more pressure and responsibilities and stress and things like that, and you're busier trying to write scripts and do things, where when you're an intern, you're just like, you're hanging, and it's great. So I'm glad you enjoyed that.
Absolutely. Time of my life. We're going to wrap things up though. You boys got any final questions or final thoughts?
No, I just want to say thank you for all the advice. Like Brandon said, you are obviously extremely well spoken and are in the positions you're in for a reason, but thank you for giving any type of advice. Like it always helps, especially being a month away from graduating and like entering the workforce and, having to be a real adult now. So it's really helpful. Thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, of course. And if you guys ever if you have any other questions or you need advice or want to run something by me, reach out. Andrew has my number, so definitely reach out. And I'm happy to help.
Yeah, just second what Kyle said. I've already gassed you up quite a bit, but no, I second everything that he just said, backing me up there. Incredibly well spoken. You are clearly a very good storyteller, so it makes sense that that's what you do for a living, is you tell stories through the world of sports, which is so incredible. So really appreciate you taking the time, really respect your time, and good luck with your next projects. We'll keep an eye on what you're doing next.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much for having me. It's been so much fun.
Thank you for coming on, and I have no doubt we'll be seeing you on big networks, because you killed it. You have been killing it. So thank you very much, Taylor. Thank you, Kyle and Brandon, and everybody who commented and watched. We will be back here in 2 weeks. We're taking next week off because of Good Friday, but we'll have more guests and more special shows on the way, but that's going to do it today. Thank you, everybody who participated, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you, and have a great 2 weeks.
Experience local excellence with Roof Right Roofing in Charlestown, Rhode Island. With over 40 years of unmatched expertise, Roof Right specializes in architectural shingles and holds the prestigious title of GAF Master Elite Installers. Known for their commitment to the community and support for local initiatives, Roof Right is your trusted partner for all of your home's roofing needs. Call today for a free estimate at 401-212-4140.
Hi, this is Dan from Lathrop Insurance. In this challenging insurance environment, Lathrop Insurance can be your beacon in the storm to help you find the coverage you need at the right price. Now, more than ever, you need a partner in the insurance industry that can work with multiple carriers to make sure you have the right coverage at the right price. Lathrop Insurance carries home, auto, and business insurance and can be reached at 401-596-2525. We've been supporting the local community since 1939, and we look forward to working with you.